Revealed. How choosing freedom over $480K from my parents led to an amazing life transformation. Jake Whitman, a 24-year-old son of Maplewood, stood at a crossroads that could alter the trajectory of his life forever. A small Midwestern town, Maplewood was a quilt of fields and close-knit families, where every handshake echoed with promises kept. When his parents handed him a staggering $480,000, it felt like a warm blanket draped over his shoulders. But beneath that comfort, a storm brewed in his heart. The whispers of the American dream taunted him, telling him to take the money and secure a traditional future, one built on stability and the sacrifices of his father, a factory worker, and his mother, a dedicated teacher. The money was a culmination of hard work, their dreams wrapped in crisp bills. But what weighed heavier on Jake was something else entirely. Why choose a safety net over a leap of faith? The thought tugged at him like the wind rustling through the cornfields that framed their homestead, constantly reminding him of the youth he once was, eager, yet trapped. He envisioned a community center, a space where young dreamers, like himself, could gather, learn, and build their futures. Visions of kids with hope in their eyes framed his thoughts. When he shared his plans with his parents, their disbelief was palpable. "Why on earth would you turn down this gift?" his mother exclaimed, eyes wide with shock. "You just don't throw away money." The words stung. That familiar tightness in his chest returned as his father's stern silence loomed over the kitchen table. Familial love mixed with confusion and disappointment washed over the room, thickening the air. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Jake faced pushback from friends who didn't understand his yearning for freedom. The struggle hit home when a close friend betrayed his trust, snatching resources he counted on for the community center. Jake felt the sting. Was this a sign his dreams were foolish? But he couldn't give up. He wouldn't let that betrayal douse his flame. Community was everything to him. Slowly, warmth returned to Maplewood as whispers turned to conversations, and conversations turned into support. Faces he once thought indifferent began to rally around him as he painted the vision of possibility. The laughter of youth began reigniting hope that nearly faded, and each step felt monumental against the backdrop of doubt as tensions rose. A pivotal moment approached the evening. He realized he had to sit down with his parents again. Heart racing, he still couldn't ignore the mixture of love and confusion etched on their faces. "This is about more than money," he'd say, hoping his conviction could bridge that divide. Could he make them understand his dream, a new definition of success, one rooted in hard work and shared opportunity? The weight of their gaze bore down as he waited for a response, the tension electric in the air. Would his pursuit of the American dream clash with the love they shared, or would it weave them closer together? Jake sat at the kitchen table, heart pounding in his chest like a drum. The clinking of silverware felt too loud, too invasive. His parents, seated across from him, wore inscrutable expressions, caught between concern and bewilderment. He took a breath, the air thick with the unspoken. It was time. "I know you want what's best for me," he started, his voice shaking slightly. But this, he gestured to the stack of bills still tucked safely in the envelope at the edge of the table. "This isn't what I want." He felt his mother's sharp intake of breath, her eyes widening with shock. "Jake, this money could build you a life," she implored, urgency blending with hope. "You could buy a house, start a family, secure your future." His father leaned back, arms folded, a frown creasing his forehead. "Is that not what every parent wishes for their child? Stability? I want to create something for our community." Jake persisted, frustration bubbling beneath his steady facade. "This isn't just about me. It's about giving kids a place to dream, to learn, to grow. I want to do this, even if it means turning my back on what you think I should want." Silence engulfed the room. The weight of his words hung like a pendulum, ticking away the moments that felt both fleeting and eternal. In that moment, he saw flickers of understanding dance in his parents' eyes, battling against years of expectation. His mother's voice broke the silence. "But what if you fail, Jake? What if you lose everything?" Her fear resonated within him. "What if I live a life dictated by fear?" He countered gently. "I won't let that happen. I refuse to trade my dreams for comfort." His father finally spoke, his tone softer but no less firm. "Your happiness matters, son. But don't you see how this risks everything we've worked for?" Feeling the pressure, Jake tried to articulate the urgency he felt. "You've worked hard so I can have options, but I'm choosing to take a path where I can forge my own future. I'm building something that can help everyone. A legacy." A heaviness settled around them, pressing against thoughts and feelings exchanged. After a long pause, his mother reached across the table, placing a trembling hand on his. I don't want to see you hurt." Jake felt his heart swell. "I appreciate that, Mom. But this community, our community, it's worth risking the pain. I believe that." Minutes turned to hours as they discussed, debated, and finally reached a truce of understanding. Tears filled his mother's eyes while his father's remained steady but softening. It became clear that their definitions of success could expand, intertwining and learning from each other's visions. As Jake left the table that night, he felt lighter, as if the burden of his parents' expectations had been eased just a little. Maybe, just maybe, he could make them proud in a way that also stayed true to himself. The sky outside had darkened, shimmering stars blinking to life overhead as he made his way to the small plot in town where he envisioned the community center. Inspiration surged through him, but a new challenge crept into the back of his mind: how to fund this dream without his parents' help. He inhaled deeply, thoughts racing as possibilities tangled in his mind. Perhaps there were grants available, or maybe there were townsfolk willing to invest in his vision. A plan began forming, mapping the path forward, but doubt lingered at the edges. As he paused on the lot, staring out into the emptiness, he thought about how much it could become. The thrill of transformation danced around him, mingling with the stark reality of what lay ahead. But what if he stumbled again? Would this huge leap of faith ignite new betrayals, or could he uncover support where he least expected it? The night air wrapped around him like a warm embrace, and with his heart full of hope, Jake took the first step into a night filled with endless possibilities. The journey had just begun. Would he find the courage to chase the funding he needed, even if it meant stepping into uncharted waters? The following day, Jake woke up with determination coursing through him. The morning light poured in through his bedroom window, painting golden rays across his walls. He could almost feel the warmth of the sun energizing him. Today was going to be different. Today he would start making things happen. He grabbed a pen and a notepad, quickly jotting down every idea that popped into his head. Grants, crowdfunding, community investments, each word was a step toward realizing his dream. His heart raced with possibility as he imagined the laughter of children filling the community center, their eyes shining with hope and excitement. This wasn't just a building, it was a future. After breakfast, he headed to the library. The small-town library was dusty but cozy, filled with books that held stories both old and new. Jake settled into a corner table and began his research. Hours passed as he combed through websites and documents, looking up grants and funding opportunities for community projects. Each click felt like a small victory, nudging him closer to his goal. As he scrolled through the information, one grant stood out. A program designed to fund local initiatives promoting youth education and recreational activities. His heart pounded again, igniting a flicker of hope. This could be it, he whispered to himself. He printed the application, the paper crinkling under his fingers, and carefully read the requirements. Jake spent the next few hours creating a proposal, pouring his heart into every sentence. He recounted the memories of his own childhood, the lack of resources, and the beautifully raw dreams that fueled his desire to make a change. This wasn't just about him, it was about lifting others, bridging gaps, and creating a solid foundation for future generations. When Jake finally returned home, the sun was dipping low in the sky, casting warm hues across the evening. He walked in to find his parents in the living room, their faces still etched with concern. But there was something different in their expressions, a sliver of curiosity, maybe even support. "Hey, Mom, Dad, I think I found a grant I can apply for," he said, his voice bubbling with excitement. Their eyes widened slightly, a mix of surprise and hope surfacing. "That's good to hear, Jake," his dad replied cautiously. "What's the next step?" "I have to gather community support and outline a solid plan. I'm thinking of holding a meeting at the town hall. I'll show people what I want to create and how it can help everyone." His mother looked thoughtful, her fingers nervously playing with a loose thread on her sweater. "You think the town will come out? Will they listen?" "They will if they believe in what I believe," Jake replied firmly. "This could change lives. I know it's a risk, but I promise you it's worth it." Seeing the resolve etched on his face, his parents exchanged glances, and he felt a small flicker of pride. Maybe they were beginning to understand. That night, as Jake lay in bed, visions of the meeting swirled in his mind. What if the townsfolk didn't come? What if they doubted him? Alternatively, what if they embraced his passion? The possibilities danced around him like fireflies in the dark. He felt both eager and terrified, riding a wave of uncertainty that had become all too familiar. The thrill and fear blended, reminding him once again of the leap he was taking. Determination surged within him as he closed his eyes. He wasn't going to let doubt steal his dreams. Tomorrow would be the first of many crucial steps. But as he drifted off to sleep, one troubling thought lingered. What if he failed to ignite that same passion in the community? Would he still be able to hold on to his vision? Would he be brave enough to push through when it mattered most? Jake woke up the next morning with the sun filtering through his window, illuminating the room with a sense of hope. He blinked away the remnants of sleep and sat up, recalling the resolve he'd felt last night. There was no time to waste. He needed to prepare for the meeting. He quickly dressed, adrenaline pulsing through his veins as he thought about what he would say. Grabbing his notepad, he flipped through his notes, making a mental checklist of everything he needed. He wanted to ensure his ideas were clear and compelling. This was his moment to shine, a chance to convince the community that they could make a difference together. After a quick breakfast, Jake headed to town hall. The old building stood proudly in the center of town, a relic from a bygone era. Stepping inside, he was greeted by the familiar smell of polished wood and faint echoes of people discussing issues in hushed tones. His stomach twisted. Would anyone come to hear him speak? He set up a projector, then paced the empty room, trying to quell the nerves that kept threatening to bubble to the surface. Each creak of the floor seemed to amplify his heartbeat. Just then, the door opened, and one by one, townsfolk began to trickle in. Familiar faces from his past, people he had grown up with, and a few strangers who were simply curious. "Hey, Jake," called out Mrs. Thompson, a sweet older woman who had always been supportive of community initiatives. "Can't wait to hear what you have for us." Her words surprised him, making his heart swell with a mix of gratitude and nervousness. As the room filled, Jake felt a rush of relief. They were here and they were watching him. With each face that nodded in encouragement, his confidence grew. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady. "Today, I want to talk about creating a community center, a place where kids can learn, play, and grow." He paused, scanning their expressions. Some looked intrigued. Others seemed skeptical. He launched into his presentation, sharing his vision and passion. He spoke about the grant, the potential benefits, and the importance of community involvement. Time flew as he shared his dreams and hopes, drawing everyone into his vision. By the time he reached the final slide, an image of a vibrant, bustling center filled with children and families, he could feel the energy in the room shift. Jake took a deep breath. "This isn't just my dream. It's ours. I believe together we can create something incredible. Will you help me make this happen?" There was a moment of silence. Then Mr. Jenkins, a respected member of the town, raised his hand. "I think we owe it to our kids to at least give it a shot." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Jake's heart soared. For every hesitant glance, there was a glimmer of excitement. Ideas started flying: a bake sale, a fundraising picnic, community workshops. Everything seemed to fall into place until he noticed Claire, sitting in the back, a serious expression painted on her face. She had always challenged him, and her skeptical gaze sent a ripple of doubt through him. "What about funding? Can we really take this on?" she asked, crossing her arms. Jake swallowed hard, feeling the weight of that question. Could they really? He opened his mouth to respond but hesitated, looking around the room. The energy shifted slightly, and he could sense the people adjusting their hopes back to cautious optimism. "I believe we can find the resources together," he finally said, hoping to instill confidence. "If we commit to this as a community, we can make it work." The room buzzed with chatter following his response, both support and uncertainty mingling in the air. Jake felt himself teetering on the edge of something monumental. Would they rally around this vision or let it slip away? As he watched the discussion unfold, Jake realized the true challenge was just beginning. He needed to convince not just Claire, but everyone in the room to embrace this leap of faith. Would he find the strength to lead them into that unknown, to push through the doubts, and seize on what could be? The stakes were higher now, and as he looked around, a single thought flashed through his mind. What if this was more than just funding a project? What if this was a chance for him and everyone in town to transform their lives? As the meeting wound down, Jake felt the adrenaline coursing through him, a mixture of excitement and anxiety buzzing beneath the surface. The room was alive with discussion, voices overlapping each other in an energetic swirl of ideas. Some folks were already discussing possible event dates. Others were trading stories of past community efforts. The warmth of their enthusiasm wrapped around him, but his focus remained on Claire, whose arms remained crossed, still skeptical. "Jake, can I talk to you for a minute?" Claire's voice cut through the crowd, and he felt the room's energy shift again. Even though he admired her passion, the tension in her tone made him uneasy. "Sure," Jake said, stepping away from the cluster of animated townsfolk. As they moved to the quieter corner of the room, he could feel the weight of her gaze, assessing him like a teacher gauging a student's readiness. "Look," Claire began, her voice softer but still firm. "I get why you're excited. Community center sounds amazing, but you need to be realistic. Do we even have the funds to support this dream? You can't just rally everyone without a solid plan." He took a breath, his chest tightening at the hint of doubt in her words. "I do believe we can find funding if we work together. Community support is key." She shook her head slightly, her expression intense. "Support is one thing, Jake. But what if it all falls apart? What if we can't meet the quotas? Or what if the town doesn't rally behind this after all?" Her questions popped his bubble of optimism. He could see her challenge, but he also felt the urgency of the moment. The community needed this. "But what if we succeed?" he countered, trying to keep that spark alive. "What if we go beyond what we think is possible? Look at the energy in that room. People want this." Claire paused, her eyes mixing skepticism with contemplation. "I want it too, but I need to know that you can handle the pressure. You've got to prove to them and to yourself that you're capable of leading this. Are you ready for that responsibility?" Her words struck him with a mix of heaviness and determination. What if he wasn't ready? The thought clung to him, but he couldn't let it win. "I have to be ready," he answered quietly, the conviction igniting in his chest. "Not just for myself, but for everyone who believes in this. We can't miss a chance like this." Claire studied him, and for a moment, they stood in silence, tension hanging between them. Then, surprisingly, her posture relaxed just a fraction. "Okay, but you need to put together a real plan, something concrete, and you need to do it fast. It'll take time to convince people." Relief flooded through him. Their conversation had shifted something. "I can do that," he said, a hint of a smile breaking through. "Good," she replied, her tone a little softer now. "I'd hate to see you get crushed if this doesn't work out. Just remember, you're not alone in this." As they emerged from their corner, Jake felt reinvigorated. The rest of the crowd seemed to sense the energy too, their chatter swelling with excitement once more, but now with urgency. He knew what he had to do: gather more detailed plans, potential community allies, and start laying the groundwork for a long journey ahead. But just as he was about to dive back into the discussions, a shadow flickered across the room. The mayor had arrived. The man's reputation as a strong leader loomed large. His opinion would either elevate Jake's vision or sink it. As the mayor approached, Jake felt his heart race again. Would he be the ally Jake needed, or the voice of reason that criticized his ambitions? Taking a deep breath, Jake steeled himself. This moment could change everything, and he had to be ready for whatever came next. Would he impress the mayor or see the challenge of his vision become even more daunting? The mayor moved through the room with an air of authority, his presence demanding attention. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he took a step forward, hoping to stand out in the swirling crowd of excited townsfolk. The discussions around him subsided, eyes shifting towards the man whose approval could shift the trajectory of his dreams. "Jake," the mayor said, his voice deep and steady. "I heard there's some big talk about a community center. Is that correct?" Jake nodded, adrenaline surging as he replied, "Yes, sir. We believe a community center could really bring our town together, provide resources. Huh? The mayor interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "What resources are you thinking of?" A jolt ran through Jake. Here was his chance. He leaned forward, eager to share his vision. "We offer classes, after-school programs, and community events. It could be a place where folks gather, share ideas, and build relationships." He could feel the crowd holding their breath, wrapped in anticipation. The mayor paused, his gaze steady. "Those are all noble ideas, kid. But talk is cheap. You need numbers, facts, figures, a plan showing how you'll not only make this project happen but keep it alive." Jake swallowed hard. The mayor was right. Without a solid foundation, it was just a dream. He clenched his fists, determination ignited. "I can get that, sir. I'll put together a comprehensive plan that outlines the budget, potential funding sources, and community feedback. People want to help. They believe in this." "Good," the mayor said, his tone shifting slightly. "But you need more than just enthusiasm. You're leading an effort here. Can you handle the responsibility?" The question echoed Claire's earlier words. He felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders, but instead of buckling, he felt stronger. "I can," he replied, voice steady. "I won't let the community down." Just then, a ripple of applause erupted from the crowd. It was spontaneous, genuine. Jake glanced around and saw smiles on familiar faces, friends nodding in support. Claire looked proud from the back of the room, no longer just a skeptic but a complicated mix of supporter and realist. Yet as the applause faded away, Jake realized the stakes were high. He stirred emotions, kindling hope. The mayor's approval could be a catalyst, but if he faltered, those same people might feel crushed. "All right then," the mayor said, a hint of approval in his voice. "Let us see what you can do. Put together that plan." He turned to leave but paused and looked back. "And Jake, one thing, don't just take the lead. Invite others to share their vision too." As the crowd buzzed with renewed energy, Jake felt a rush of excitement mixed with trepidation. The mayor's words hung heavy in the air. Invite others? Wasn't this his dream? Yet he understood the implication: this couldn't solely be his vision. It needed to be theirs, shared and supported by the community. The room buzzed, with people buzzing about how they could help, while Jake started to sketch out ideas in his mind. But then, just as that sense of camaraderie started to wash over him, a familiar figure emerged: Mark, his childhood friend, who had always been quick with skepticism and criticisms. The smile on his face didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, Jake," Mark called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. "So you think raising funds for a community center is going to be easy? You might want to reconsider." The laughter and applause faded, replaced by a taut silence. Jake's heart raced. Was this the confrontation he didn't need right now? What lay behind those words? As Mark approached, Jake braced himself. He had proven his determination to the mayor, but how would he stand up to his childhood friend? Would he be able to unify their town or watch it all slip away? This moment could be pivotal, but would Mark's doubts derail everything? Jake felt the weight of the room shift as Mark stepped closer, his tone laced with a familiar skepticism. The ambitious visions for the community center dimmed momentarily. Doubt crept into Jake's mind. He could sense the crowd's curiosity shift toward this interaction, holding their breath for what would unfold. Easy, Jake echoed, trying to keep his voice steady. No, I'm not expecting it to be easy, but it's about the community coming together. People want this. Mark crossed his arms, the slight smirk still lingering, but with a hint of something else. Was it concern? That's what everyone says, but talk doesn't fill a center, Jake. Have you even thought about how many people will actually show up? Or how much it costs to run a place like that? Jake's heart sank. He anticipated challenges, of course, but the practicality of Mark's words started to gnaw at him. Had he overlooked crucial details? I have ideas on funding and planning. Ideas? Mark interrupted, his voice sharper now. Ideas don't pay bills. Have you done the math? How many donations are you realistically expecting? What if no one shows up? Frustration bubbled inside Jake. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. You sound like you don't believe in our town. Don't you want this to happen? Before Mark could respond, Claire pushed through the crowd, her face warm with concern. Jake, maybe you should listen. Mark actually knows a thing or two about fundraising. She turned to Mark, her brow knitted. But you can't just shoot down his spirit. He's trying to do something good. Mark's gaze flicked between them, his expression softening slightly. I'm not here to crush his dreams, Claire. His tone eased a bit. I want him to be ready for reality. If he's going to do this, he has to look at it from all angles. Felt like a slap and bomb, all at once. Jake couldn't help but feel grateful for Claire stepping in. Yet Mark's words lingered, casting shadows over his hopes. I appreciate your honesty, Mark, Jake said, firming his resolve. But I refuse to let fear stop me. We can't just sit and wait for things to happen. We have to act. The words electrified the room. A few heads nodded. Hopeful murmurs swelled again. Seeing that flicker of support reignite made Jake's heart pound once more. But he knew those doubts could drown out that light if he wasn't careful. Then show me the details, Jake. Prove this can work, Mark pressed, his eyes locking with Jake's. You have to bring the facts, not just ideals. Fine, Jake replied, the challenge firing him up. I will, and I'll invite you to help. He stepped closer to Mark, his conviction rising. I want your input and your experience. This is about all of us coming together. I want to unite our town. Mark's brow furrowed. A mixture of surprise and something more profound flickered in his eyes. Were they finally veering toward common ground? Jake hoped this could change the dynamics once rivals in perspective. Now allies? The crowd began to murmur differently, pulling Jake into a revival of enthusiasm that engulfed them. Felt like a turning point. But deep down, unease churned. Could he really unite everyone? And what if the plans he was about to lay out weren't enough? Jake took a deep breath, glancing at Claire, then Mark. He felt a bond growing, but it also felt fragile. Tomorrow, everything started. Tomorrow was the deadline for his first draft of the plan. But with so many uncertainties still in the air, an unsettling question tugged at him. What if he discovered that uniting the community meant facing demons he hadn't prepared for? As dawn broke, Jake pulled himself from restless sleep, the weight of the upcoming day hanging over him like a dense fog. The clock ticked loudly, reminding him that time was slipping away. He threw back the covers and swung his legs out of bed, feet hitting the cool hardwood floor. Deep breaths. Today was the day I in the kitchen. The scent of coffee filled the air, its warmth a welcome comfort. Claire was already there, nursing a mug while scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, a glimmer of encouragement in her eyes that fueled Jake's spirit. You ready for this? She asked, tilting her head. Ready as I'll ever be, he replied, pouring himself a cup. Remember, it's about the heart you put into it. Believe in what you're doing. Her words wrapped around him like a soft blanket. Pushing back the doubts that lingered, Jake's gaze fell on the pile of papers spread across the table. Notes, sketches, and funding ideas, his labor of love. Underneath them, Another scrunched-up paper lay there, the remnants of a failed brainstorming session where he had doubted his own vision. Hesitating, he tossed it into the trash. Today marked a new beginning. Minutes felt like hours as he paced, anticipating the meeting. Each tick of the clock echoed the approaching hour when he would present his draft to the town's committee. What would they think? Would they share in his vision or sink him like the weight of Marcus' skepticism? As he stepped into the community hall, the familiar scent of polished wood and fresh paint filled his lungs. A small crowd gathered, faces filled with curiosity and expectation. Jake's heart pounded, but his resolve was firm. The chairs creaked as people shuffled in, finding their places, and he caught sight of Mark seated at the back, arms crossed tightly. Turning his attention to the crowd, Jake cleared his throat, the air tinged with adrenaline. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know there are doubts, but together, we can create something that truly benefits our community. Clutching his notes, he dove into his outline, describing each section with a passion that ignited the room. The community center was no longer just an idea, it was a dream that could transform their town into a hub of activity, support, and togetherness. He spoke of family game nights, youth programs, workshops, and a space where people could find common ground. With Marcus' serious expression set in the background, Jake's words flowed, overcoming any trembling uncertainty he had felt earlier. Cheers of encouragement peppered his presentation like sunshine breaking through clouds. Even the crowd's acknowledgement of some of Marcus' concerns showed them responding to a united front he hadn't expected. But as he wrapped up, Jake's eyes fell on the blank faces of a few committee members. Just as he was finishing, a hand shot up. How much is this going to cost? An older woman asked, the concern etched on her brow. Jake's heart sank. I've looked into funding options, and I believe we can secure donations. But his voice trailed off, the weight of that single question crashing back over him like a wave. What if no one shows up for events? Another voice piped up, echoing Marcus' earlier doubts. They were questions he'd thought of. He had solutions in his mind, but before he could formulate them, Mark stood up, a flicker of determination igniting his gaze. This is where data, experience, and community spirit can come together. We need to work together to bridge the gap between ideals and reality. Jake smiled, relief flooding through him at this surprising support. But the question loomed heavy in the air. Could their collaboration truly turn this project from dreams into a vibrant reality? As the meeting continued, the fragile bond they were building felt strained but hopeful. Jake realized this was only the beginning of what would be a long journey ahead, a journey that required more than just plans and ideas. It would need hearts brave enough to face the fears that lay ahead, including his own. And in that moment it struck him, for every person who believed in their dream, what if there was another yet to be convinced? What if uniting the community meant standing against not just doubt, but also against the complexities of their intertwined lives? The committee room hummed with unease as Jake's fears and hopes mingled in the air. Each hesitant word from the community members carved deeper doubts into his mind. But he had felt warmth from Marcus' earlier support. That had to mean something. A spark of possibility lit in his chest, even as the tides of uncertainty still washed over him. Let us consider this a step forward. Marcus' voice boomed, breaking through the tension. This project is more than financials. It's about what it means for our community. We can all contribute, whether in ideas, time, or funds. It's a collective effort. His gaze landed on every committee member, weaving through the audience like a warm blanket trying to cover the chill. Jake could see the murmurings, the shifting expressions among the crowd as hesitation turned to contemplation. I have friends who might chip in, said one woman from the front row. And my kid's school just started a fundraising group. Perhaps they want to help too. A group of nodding heads followed, the seeds of collaboration starting to sprout among those gathered. Encouragement bubbled up in whispers, fueling Jake's confidence. Exactly, Jake said, feeling the pulse of excitement surge. This is about more than just a center. It's about the community coming together, sharing resources and ideas growing as a whole. But moments later, an old man rose from the back, heavy with skepticism. You've got pie-in-the-sky visions, son. But I've seen things come and go. I've seen promises broken. Jake's heart thudded. How could he regain the momentum? I understand, he replied, keeping his voice steady. But change happens when we take that leap together. It's about engaging with one another, building something that lasts. I won't promise it'll be easy, but if we don't try, we'll never know what we could accomplish. The old man opened his mouth, but another voice chimed in. We can't afford to sit back. I'm tired of waiting for someone else to change things. The speaker was another committee member, wrinkled but shining with passion. What have we got to lose? Those words surged through the crowd. It felt as if a cocoon were breaking open, hope spilling out across the gathered faces. Jake's heart raced, seeing the mix of skepticism battling against rising enthusiasm. Could this be an actual turning point? Let us put together a community forum, Mark suggested, grabbing the opportunity. Open discussions. Share more ideas. Everyone here has a stake in this, right? Heads nodded, eyes brightening. Enthusiasm sparked like kindling finding flame. Jake felt a swell of gratitude wash over him for Mark's boldness. Together they could persevere. This was a chance and opportunity to shape their future as the meeting wound down, and conversations buzzed in excited clusters. Jake felt a tender ache in his chest. Could they genuinely rally together to face the unknown? Walking out into the crisp evening air, Jake caught Clara's eye. She approached, her smile radiant with pride. You did great. They're passionate. His heart swelled, but a nagging thought crept in. It wasn't just the doubters he had to convince. It was everyone. That night, as the moon cast silver light through his window, Jake sat at the kitchen table, gathering a fresh stack of notes and ideas. This would be a marathon, not a sprint. How could he share the vision without minimizing the validity of concerns? In that moment, he realized he needed to reach out for more than just support. He needed to foster understanding, to find bridges between diverse perspectives. Each voice mattered, and understanding them would be vital. As his pen danced across the paper, he felt a surge of purpose. He would find a way to embrace the dreams and fears alike, inviting every heart into the fold. But just as he began to formulate his strategy, his phone dinged a message that would change everything. Jake, we need to talk. There's something I discovered that you need to know. His pulse raced. What could it be? The weight of uncertainty crashed upon him anew. Had he been wrong to assume they were moving forward? What new challenges lay ahead? Jake's heart raced as he stared at the message on his phone, the words echoing in his mind. What could this be about? He thought, anxiety tightening its grip around him. He quickly typed back, "What did you find out?" His fingers tapped nervously against the table, anticipation swirling within him. A few moments later, the response came, but before he could fully read it, a knock on the door broke through his thoughts. It was Claire. "Hey, I wanted to check in," she said as he opened the door. He could see the concern etched in her brow. "I heard about the meeting. How did it go?" "It was intense," Jake admitted, motioning for her to come in. There were a lot of doubts, but some support too. Mark stepped up. "We're thinking of holding a community forum to get more ideas flowing." But he hesitated, the weight of uncertainty still looming. "I just got a message from someone saying they've found something I need to know. It's making me nervous." Claire frowned. "That sounds serious. Do you know who it's from?" Just as he was about to respond, his phone pinged again. He read the message and his face fell. It was a friend from the committee who had jumped into the fray. "Jake, it's about funding issues. There are rumors about budget cuts coming from the town council. We need to act fast." The room felt colder, and Jake's pulse quickened. "Are they serious?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He looked up at Claire, the reality crashing down on him. This was everything weighing on his shoulders. The hope of a community center was quaking under the pressure of financial instability. "I don't know," Claire said, her expression shifting from concern to determination. "But we can't let this derail everything. Let's get the word out. We need to address this together." "Together?" Jake echoed, the thought sparking a flicker of hope amidst the worry. "You're right." An idea began to form in his mind. Maybe we can turn it into a positive. Highlight the needs the center fulfills, and get the community to rally around its importance. If they see the center's potential, they might be more inclined to voice their support to the council. And we can involve the townsfolk directly, Claire added. Let us create a social media campaign, gather stories of how this space could impact lives. People will want to share their experiences if they know it will matter. With renewed energy, they began brainstorming. They jotted down ideas, community testimonials, photos of the crowd at the last meeting, passionate appeals to the town council, and plans for the forum. The urgency filled the room as the thoughts flowed freely, combining their hopes, fears, and determination into one unified vision. As evening turned to night, they pulled together a plan to rally support. Social media posts would go out the following morning, while the forum would serve not just as a stage for Jake's vision but also as a pulpit for the community to voice their own needs and stories. This won't just be my dream, he stated, steeling himself. It'll be our collective future. The air crackled with momentum as Jake felt a deeper purpose unfurling within him. This wasn't just about the center. It was about community. Days passed slowly, each tick of the clock echoing doubts and hopes alike. But with every post, every conversation sparked, every story shared, Jake could sense the energy shifting. Messages poured in, the community responding, voices united in a chorus demanding the town council consider their pleas for the center they couldn't let it slip away. When the day of the community forum arrived, the room was packed. Familiar faces and newcomers alike filled the seats, an entire spectrum of the town's spirit converging in one place. He looked around, feeling a swell of gratitude. If courage became contagious, then their collective voice would shake the walls of skepticism. Thank you all for being here, Jake said, heart racing. Each of you matters in this fight. It's about showing the council what our community can achieve together. The energy in the room was palpable, and the eagerness for change hung in the air. One by one, community members stepped up, sharing their stories of children who craved a space to learn, seniors longing for connection, and families searching for gathering spots. The stories sparked a fire in the room, igniting passion that rippled through every corner. Jake watched in awe as fear transformed into empowerment, each narrative knitting them closer. Finally, as the forum came to a close, Jake stood in front of the crowd, the weight of their expectations resting gently on his shoulders. You've shown how much this dream matters not just to me but to all of us. Let us take this energy to the council, he urged, his voice ringing through their hearts. We have the power to create something incredible, but it starts with us standing united. Cheers erupted, reverberating within the walls, echoing back the dreams they were ready to claim. At that moment, both fear and hope coalesced into something more profound. The path ahead was still rocky. The council's decision hung over them like a cloud. But now, together, their collective spirit was unwavering, and Jake felt the pulse of a metamorphosis taking place. He turned towards Claire, who stood beaming in the crowd, and nodded in unspoken understanding. They had built something together, and for the first time, he felt a sense of unwavering possibility as they left the room that night, many voices mingling in shared hopes and laughter. Jake understood this was only the beginning of a broader story. Each heart represented a piece of their town's future, and he had the courage to lead. Whatever challenges arose, they would face them as one, hand in hand, pushing forward into a vibrant future painted by dreams. And as the stars twinkled high above Maplewood, Jake took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the community wrap around him. This journey was beyond him, it was for everyone. He could almost hear the laughter of children echoing in the frames of a brighter tomorrow, where dreams sparkled into a reality they would forge together. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire you to transform your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this powerful journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your thoughts matter. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together and showing support.